Hello bitches, it's your girl Asia from Rant channel. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to me doing more Degrassi topics. So boom, we need to have an important conversation when it comes to Degrassi, like a very, very important conversation. My sister told me that did I notice that through seasons 1 through 7 or maybe 8 or 9ish that they did like character introductions where that season was mostly wrapped around that character. I sat back and had to think for a minute. I was like, you know what? She kind of right. And then she said it kind of stopped once you reach the newer generation. We're going to talk about all of that. Like, we're going to just throw that shit in the hat and just talk about it. I want to talk about the character introduction thing as well. I want to talk about Degrassi, what's like, again, for the newer generation, what the fuck happened to those storylines and why was it just so relationship based? We're gonna get into all that. I know y'all probably get tired of me always talking about, oh, what happened to those important storylines, but it's like, when I watch the newer generation, it just pops into my head where it's like, what the fuck happened to them? Even when you watch Next Class, yes, they did some things, but for the most part, it was really who's sleeping with who, who's dating who. It wasn't like enough important topics for me. This is teen drama, right? You know, I kind of came to a conclusion why the new generation was different. And we're going to get into all that. But I want to touch on the character introduction. My sister is 100% right when she said that when it was a season, it was mostly wrapped around either that one character or a couple characters. Like, season 1, you can really say, to me, I feel like for season 1, the characters who were really like wrapped around in that season, that they the writers put into a hat and said these are going to be our characters who we're going to make some. Oh my god, why the fuck can I not talk? Literally, I feel like in season 1 for Degrassi, the writers put, you know, the names of their characters in a hat, shuffled them, and said these are going to be the characters we wrap this season around. And I feel like for season 1, the main characters who really got like the most storylines to me was Emma. I'm gonna say Sean, and I'm gonna say Ashley and Paige, Jimmy. Like, they were like the main like characters for that season. And when I mean like with Ashley and Jimmy, I mostly mean their relationship. Like, their relationship got a lot of screen time, and I never really cared for Ashley and Jimmy's relationship, like, at all. So I personally never gave a fuck, but their relationship in season 1 definitely got a lot of screen time. And other characters you could say like Liberty or JT and Toby and them, they definitely felt flat because they were not the most interesting in that season. Neither was Manny. Manny in season 1 and 2 was really a sidekick to Emma. She hasn't really grown into her own yet. I think the writers of the show were still trying to figure out what they were going to try to make her character necessarily be, and she hasn't really came into her own just quite yet. But season 1, you definitely got to know more about Emma, that, you know, she's a feminist. She like, what's the word what's the word I'm looking for? Because they literally just said it in season 4 last night when I was watching it. Protest. She likes the whole protest. She likes the environment. She likes nature. She likes animals. She is against killing animals for meat. So you know who Emma is, right? You know that Jimmy is best friends with Spinner. He's dating Ashley. They've been dating for quite some time. And Ashley is just mean. You know that her and Toby are step siblings. So it's just, those were the characters that they put in the hat and said that these are going to be our characters for the season. Again, season 1 for Degrassi was still childlike era. It was still kiddish. You know, they didn't really have like those storylines just yet that made you feel like, okay, this is just, you know, they still getting into it, so I ain't gonna be that harsh. But you know what? Like I've always said, if I was watching season 1 of the Degrassi Next Generation on TV, I don't think I would have finished the show. I feel like the first season should determine whether or not will you be coming back to watch that second season. And I've always said, if that first season aired on TV and I had to sit down and watch it in 2002, baby, hell no. I would have came back to watch the show. And I'm like, you know what, this show ain't gonna be good. It's gonna be a motherfucking failure. But you know, when you're streaming it, it's completely different, right? I don't think any teenagers today would really sit down and watch 14 seasons of Degrassi. I know I can because that's just how determined I was. There were some good seasons, there's some bad, but I can sit down and watch 14 seasons of Degrassi without a problem. The only seasons I would never watch again are 8 and 9. No way. Probably no. 7, 8, and 9 I will never watch again. And as much as I hate season 14, I can actually watch that season, to be honest. Because I was watching a little bit of it last night. I can watch that season. I can watch the good episodes. And the filler ones, they're not that bad, but that season definitely has a shit tons of problems. I already made a video about it. You already know. And then for season 2 for Degrassi, your main characters that season were like Craig, I want to say like Ellie, Marco, because you know they were still getting into still giving Marco that character development on if he was gay. You know what? I've never really like cared for Marco's character. And I've been thinking maybe I should go back and watch his like whole gay storylines. And I think I'm gonna do that. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna go back and watch Marco's like everything, like season 2 to where he actually came out to his dad, and just see do I not care for Marco's character as much as I say I do. You feel me? I'm gonna do that because Marco is a character I don't care for, and I think it's because Degrassi has a habit of, you know, doing stuff where it's like, me personally, I definitely feel like Marco had the greatest gay story on the show because there was so much struggle because, you know, in the early 2002s, you know, there still was a struggle of being gay. Now, when you watch characters like Tristan out in 2012 or 11, the gay community isn't as harsh as it was back then, so therefore, Tristan gets shit on for being gay. There wasn't, you know, that wasn't likely, but when you go back and like watch the early 2002s, of course Marco will want to be in the closet. So you know what? I'm gonna do that today, y'all. I got 3 topics I want to upload, and then today I'm about to watch Marco's entire gay storyline. I'm gonna look up his character and see when he came out to his dad. I'm gonna just look up his character on the Degrassi community page and see his storylines and shit like that, and go to those specific episodes. And then I'm gonna come in here and talk to y'all about, do I really think Marco's character is as boring as I think he is? Because I thought Marco was very cute, and I think the reason why I call him boring is because I don't really remember too much of his earlier storylines like that. Maybe it's because I didn't pay attention to him because I didn't care for him. You feel me? There are some things I can go back to where them Asians, you should pay attention to that more. And I think the reason why I just didn't care for Marco's character anymore like that is because once they put him with Dylan, it just was in the ringer. They should have gave Marco a better love interest than Dylan, and I stand 10 toes down with that. Like, 10 toes down with that. They should have gave Marco a better love interest. Dylan put Marco through so much shit, and Marco did not deserve it. He didn't. Marco loved Dylan so much, head over heels, and Dylan just always would cheat, want to be a hoe. It was a lot. It's like, can you even call their relationship a relationship? It was given more like a situationship. You feel me? So, yeah, season 2, you know, their main characters is like Craig, you know, Marco, Ellie, because they're like the new characters coming in. Hey, she did her thing that season. I'm going to say a little bit of Sean, because Sean had the whole messaging about her thing, and I feel like this season made me feel like, why did they stop giving Toby storyline? Because y'all remember when Toby had that eating disorder episode, Mirror in the Bathroom, season 2, episode 9? He did such a phenomenal job in that episode. And it just reminded me of, what the fuck happened to those storylines where you want to join a team in school and they tell you have to drop weight or you got to reach this certain limit? What happened to that? Because when I look at Toby's storyline, I just realized, Degrassi in season 12 did a copy and paste of this with Tristan, because Tristan went on a hunger strike so he could lose weight to be a part of Eli's, movies. Because, I don't think Eli was calling Tristan fat, but, he just told Tristan that some of the more movies that he's coming out with are more physical, like they're going to be more fighting, a lot more moving around, and he just needs someone who's more agile and fit to fit that dilemma. it's not putting anybody down, because in Hollywood, that's really what they do. Sometimes you get a role, you have to work out for that role. So, but Tristan didn't do it because he wanted the part. Tristan wanted to lose weight because he wanted to be loved. So those are two different things. Like, but you definitely could tell they just copy and paste the storyline. It would have been nice to see, Tristan have an equal to the storyline, because in season 13 he lost so much weight. So it's like, how did he lose so much weight? That would have been really nice to know, because I don't think the actor ever talked about how he lost weight. Maybe I can look it up and see. Maybe he worked out. But for Degrassi, they could have did something where Tristan was bulimic. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, what the fuck happened to those storylines? Like, Degrassi did not want to take chances anymore. What happened? And in season 3, I'm definitely going to say their main characters were Manny for season 3. I'm going to say Marco, because he had the whole, the gay storyline, with Spinner. I really like that. I'm going to say Craig for season 3 for sure. I think that's it for because I'm trying to think what everybody else did in that season, and not too much. The drama was really rough around Manny and Craig that season. You know what? I'm gonna say Ellie for season 3 too, because Ellie did have that one episode where she was self-harming herself, which always irritated me that they only did one episode and never came back to it. But I'm definitely gonna put her on there, and I'm gonna put Sean on there too, for sure. Sean had some good stuff in season 3 that I really liked, and a part of me want to say Emma, but not really, and that's only because I feel like Emma didn't really do anything in season 3 for real. Not really. For season 4, I'm gonna say their characters that they put in the half of season 4 to me. I'm gonna go with I think Marco, because if I'm not mistaken, I think Marco did come out to his dad that season. And that was the season he had come out to his mom and said that he was gay. That was a good episode. I watched that shit last night. That was a really good episode. I'm going to say Marco. I'm going to say Ellie again. I'm going to say Craig for sure. Rick was a real good character that season. I'm going to say Paige too. Like, season 4 was a really good season. And then for season 5, I'm saying Emma. I'm saying JC and Liberty, Manny, Ellie and Craig, Peter. Did I say Emma? Emma. And then for season 6, I'm going to say, for season 6, I'm going to say Ellie and Craig, Sean and Emma, JC and Liberty. And then for season 7, honestly, I can really say the main character who made that season what it was Darcy. So you obviously saw that. And then for 8 and 9, I'm going to say Ali Bendari, because her whole relationship with Johnny really made that season interesting for what it was. See, so obviously y'all saw a pattern that Degrassi, had a habit of picking their characters who were going to, like, their characters for that season was going to make that season for what it was, right? But then as you watch the other seasons, it kind of stopped. Now, I can say for seasons 10 through 12, they definitely pick characters who are going to shine bright. Like, for season 10, I'm going to say Holly J, Fiona, Drew, Claire, Eli. Season 11, Claire, Eli, Drew, Bianca. Trying to think anybody else who caught my attention this season. Oh, Casey and Jenna. And season 10 too, Casey and Jenna. Their pregnancy storyline was good as fuck. And then for season 12, I'm going to say Cam, definitely Cam, Maya, Drew, Bianca. Who else? Claire, of course. I think that's it. Oh, Adam. I'm definitely going to say Adam for season 12 because he actually got storylines that season. So, yeah, so obviously you saw that Degrassi had a pattern of picking out their main characters who were going to be, those stories were going to be wrapped around. When you watch the 13 and 14, it wasn't like specific characters that was wrapped around that season. It was just We're gonna do a plot here, do a plot here, do a plot there. Like, to me, I feel like the season 13 and 14, the sophomores carried that season. The sophomores came in, put their motherfucking foot down and said, this is our season where we shine. Fuck the seniors. And I 100% agree with that. The seniors, they really lack storylines, and they lack inconsistency. I definitely feel like the sophomores had a way better class. And it's like, is it just the seniors and the sophomores going here? Because why the fuck didn't the freshmen get any storylines? Like Frankie, Lola, Shay, they didn't get no fucking storylines. You didn't know anything about them, like, at all. You just know Frankie is definitely a character I feel like should have got more storylines by herself individually. Because I feel like Frankie was suffering from self-identity. Like, I feel like she should have got a suicide storyline in the Degrassi next class. Because I just feel like her character always felt alone. And she just always had this sadness around her. Sadness. Like, see this in the Degrassi next class, like, I watched the first episode, I think, when Shay and Tiny had a conversation, and Lola was like, ooh, y'all look cute together. Frankie was like, don't fall in love because it's just heartbreak and sadness, and you want to jump over a bridge. I'm thinking like, damn, girl, that's a little deep. I mean, I know you had a breakup and all, but killing yourself or whatever, implying that? That's what I'm saying. Like, they should have something where it was going to, like, they should have made her suicidal. Degrassi definitely dropped the ball for not doing anything with Frankie other than making her relationship obsessed. Like, she cannot say anybody else's boy crazy when that's really what she became. Winston, not Winston, the other nigga, then Winston again, Jonah, not Jonah. Like, she just was constantly in and out relationships, and I feel like, I mean, yeah, that's good and all, you know, drama from relationships, but it's like, that's it? What happened to those individual character storylines? Like, can we know more about Frankie? Like, can we dig deeper? I mean, shit, we know a lot more about Miles than his relationships. We knew a lot more about Hunter than the people he was dating. So why couldn't they done the same thing with Frankie? Like, what happened to those female individual storylines? Like, why did they stop? Did the females not, did they like, and I think it's because they didn't try to give the female characters any more development. Like, who are some of the female characters you could say they actually developed heading into their class? I feel like it's Maya and Zoe. Maya and Zoe, to me, were like the female characters in that season that they gave something to, and to the 13 or 14, so when they do next class, they can give them more. They didn't do that with Shay or Lola or Frankie. So in next class, their characters would suffer for still being their characters suffered for getting real good storylines because their characters were still surface level, if that makes sense. So, like for season 13 or 14, I feel like the plots were really wrapped around the sophomores. Like, the seniors did not have no good storylines to me. The only good storyline I can say I really liked from the senior class was the whole Drew and Claire shit. And even that, I'm not a big fan of, but you know what? It's whatever. I guess it's up in his motherfucking stuff. Even though I'm not a fan of it, I'm okay with it. Like, I'm okay with that being for what it was. Thank God it was just one season. But you know, Degrassi loved to test our patience, so what do? They make Claire pregnant, and they think Drew is the baby daddy. Turns out it's Eli who's the daddy, and they drag that storyline out all the way to season 14. It ruins all three characters, because both Eli and Drew were used as plot devices. They were no longer their own individual characters. Drew was in and out relationships with Becky. Drew had no character development at that point. He was completely derailed. He was just a plot device for bitch to bitch to bitch to bitch to bitch. Like, so, y'all see what I'm getting at. Degrassi and the other generations was too relationship based. It wasn't, the storylines were very surface level. They did not dig deep. Don't get me wrong, there were some storylines that they did do that I did like. They had, you know, the whole Miles and his dad abuse storyline. I love that. They had the whole Hollingsworth drama. I love that. They had the whole, you know, Maya having PTSD or anxiety with the Cam shit and, you know, kind of projecting that onto Miles. I love that. What else did they have? They had the whole Zoe getting sexually assaulted in season 13. I like that. Those storylines were good. But again, those seasons still felt surface level because they really were just about who's sticking with who's seeing who's dating who. And, you know, I understand that Degrassi was in a different time when it came to seasons like 10 through 14. So, of course, since it's a different time, the issues that they addressed in the earlier seasons, I completely understand that Degrassi felt like for the newer audience, we didn't need to address that, like the complications that come with having unprotected sex. Because it's like, what happened to those storylines? What happened to those storylines where if they're in a relationship, they don't feel like they're ready to have sex. They're not comfortable. What happened to insecurity storylines? What happened to self-worth? What happened to body image? What happened to not feeling pretty? What happened to struggling with, your hormones because you're a late bloomer and you feel like you're not up there with the rest of the girls or with the rest of the guys? Like, what happened to those storylines? Like, what happened to those storylines that kids like me were able to connect with? What happened to self-harming? What happened to, things going on at home and you try to avoid it, whatever it is, with drugs or alcohol? What happened to mental health? Like, what the fuck happened to the storylines? When you watch the newer generation, it's just, oh, yeah, they did do some storylines with alcohol, like Fiona. They did have the domestic abuse storyline, Ellie and Fiona, but they weren't as good. Not like Terry. They weren't as good. And it's like, with the newer generation, like I said, I understand that they want to be more social media based, more phone based, because that's what the kids today are doing. They feel like they didn't have to talk about heavy topics as if like rape or mental health or sexual diseases or body image or insecurities or feeling like you don't belong here or things like, or dealing with not ready to have sex or just things like that. Like, those type of conversations are important. What the fuck is the new kids today, if they were to watch Degrassi and watch the new generation, what message would they be getting? That these relationships be messy as fuck nowadays, that a nigga you like could just switch on you any moment? Like, what happened to heartbreak and love, finding your first love and the relationship not turning out the way it would turn out? Or what happened to having crushes and getting heartbroken over? What happened to those storylines? What happened? Because in season 2, that's what happened with Manny, right? She had a crush on Craig. Craig took her out on a date and just wasn't feeling, because he felt like she was very, very immature. And, that was a crush that she had, and it was heartbroken, right? So in season 3, Manny didn't want to be a kid anymore. She didn't want to be cute, adorable. She wanted to be hot. She wanted to get that attention. Whether it was dressing provocative, wearing a thong, she was going to get the niggas' attention who didn't pay her any mind. Now she's getting their attention. With niggas, with Craig, that's what I'm talking about. That's character development. They're picking back up on that storyline from season 2, and they're picking it back up on season 3. For the new generation, I don't know, they just struggle with telling, like, important topics. Like, it was just too relationship based for me. Too surface level. Very, very surface level. It wasn't deep enough. And, y'all, I like drama, but I also like, like seeing important topics. That is what teen drama, that is what Degrassi was. By season 3, Degrassi became teen drama. We're going to be, talking about heavy topics. Now in the new generation, everything was just relationship. Who's dating who's sleeping with who. It's like, we doing this again. Even in the Degrassi Next Class, it was that for a certain extent. Like I said, the Degrassi Next Class did have some good storylines. Like, they had the whole storyline with Miles abusing, any type of drug that was a pill. If it was a pill, he abused it. That was a really good fucking storyline. Him being, like, abusing painkillers or whatever it might have been. That was a really good storyline. Zoe self-harming herself because she was struggling with her sex identity. Her, suffering with her identity of whether she was gay, straight, or bisexual. That was a really good storyline. A really good storyline. Like, when I look back at it now, that was a really good storyline. What happened to the storyline? The storyline with Hunter suffering from depression, that was a really good storyline too. Even Miles suffering from depression, that was a good storyline. Maya, her depression storyline, where it was just her like being very, very obsessed with death. Like, the Degrassi Next Class did have some good storylines, but for the most part, it really was just who's dating who's sleeping with who, relationships breaking up, getting back together. For the most part, that's what the storylines was. So I feel like the next, like, our generation of Degrassi definitely suffer for not telling important plots. It was too surface level, and there's nothing y'all can ever tell me that would make me change my mind and not feel like it wasn't. It was definitely surface level. They could have done more, but they decided not to do more because, like I said, it was a new time. This is 2015, 2014. No one is talking about sex. At that point, it was just like, oh, once you're in a relationship, you should on top be comfortable with having sex with your boyfriend or your significant other. No, you can still be a virgin. You cannot be ready to have sex because there's a lot of things that comes with having sex. You can have sex with this person and feel like maybe that's what they're using you for, or your relationship would never be the same because you'll have sex. Like maybe sex is going to complicate things. Like what happened to those important conversations? I'm done. I just want to get on here and just, address that because my sister ran that by me. And you know what? I 100% agree. What the fuck happened to those character introductions? What happened to those specific characters being the ones that shine bright in the season? And what happened to those important storylines that people who are watching, like the audience, can get behind? What happened? As always, it's nice talking to you.